Hello everyone, how's it going again? It's me, Zimzilla99, back again with a Kaiju character talk video. I have not done one of these in a long time, even though the purpose of making this series in the first place was to make small videos that I could put in between my larger videos. But that apparently fell through. However, I am still doing this series because I realized there were other people asking me if I was going to do other Kaiju character talks on topics that are still relatively far away, so I am going to start this up again, and it is on episode 3, and that is Flying Dinosaurs, quote unquote, because pterosaurs are not dinosaurs. Yes, the common archetype for this character is pterosaurs. However, dragons somewhat fall into this archetype. However, it's mostly pterosaurs that people think of. Of course, in the main kaiju literature, media, etc., Rodan would be the quintessential archetype of this character, followed by Gauss from the Gamma series, although Gauss can sometimes be considered a bat or bird, but the semantics in this case do not really apply. And as for the odd one out, always being Ultraman, the closest from specifically the original Ultraman series is Hydra. Now, looking at those three kaiju with their origins, one being atomic, the other just kind of being a random monster that appears, and then Hydra being a supernatural creature, there are a ton of ways to have origins for these characters. So, as always, I have 6 kaiju of my own that I have made. We'll start off at the bottom right. This one has a teal detailing with navy blue as its main color. And what I wanted to do with the design was give it the relatively long neck, similar to most pterosaurs nowadays. The art, like the detailing itself, is very limited because I wanted to keep it within a specific style of characters I was working on at the time. And I just wanted to have areas that, with the spines, they would allow it to pop the most. So back of the head, if it's very bare, it doesn't really draw the attention. However, having the spines there as well as the crest on the top of the head draws your attention to the top of the head. Spines running down allows the back to be less bare. The tail can stay on its own. The wings being probably the main part you'd be seeing, obviously a lighter color than the dark navy blue body, and then all the claws being this teal color. Same with the eyes, allowing all of these parts to stand out. And then the legs being very lanky are also a darker color. So with this, it was very much working with what colors I wanted to do and what would pop, what wouldn't, and allow your eyes to sort of trail off to whatever portion of the body and really make out what it was supposed to be. So next is in the middle, it's the Rodan. So this was just a Rodan design I was working on at the time. As you can see, it takes a lot from just the general Rodan shape, sort of arched neck, the tri horns at the back, front horns at the front. This one has teeth. The original Rodan had teeth, the knobbed body, as well as the same. Well, the legs are similar, however, in this case, they are digigrade instead of plantigrade like the normal Rodan because of suit limitations and all, and I wanted to give him a more pterosaur-like leg structure in this case. The wings, there's not a lot of detailing on them, similar to the normal Rodan wings. However, with the other kaiju on the right, that one has a little bit of membrane, bony parts into it. That's the one thing that I will say that separates pterosaur wings from dragon wings or bat wings, is that the membrane, there's really no separation of the membrane. It's one whole solid sheet of skin in this case, while with dragons, there's usually bones in it, and the same would apply to bats. And going on to the membranes of the wings, this is the one furthest to the left on the bottom, that is Xenodon. And with Xenodon has a lot of armor on him. The head's armored, 3 eyes, and 2 toes at the front, 2 at the back. Short tail. All the guys on the bottom essentially have short tails, except for there's one guy on the top who also has a short tail. And with Xenodon, I wanted to work with a alien sort of pterosaur-like creature, so it would fill the same archetype as a Rodan or Gauss-like character, except see what I could do to make the design less Earth-like and more alien. So for me, that was add a lot of armor, make the head a little bit less normal and give it multiple eyes. With aliens, I'm going to have to do another just video separately on just aliens in general. You can do a lot with aliens, however, with aliens that have a specific trait to them or similarity to a other archetype, you are always going to have to be within the confines of what it is that makes this alien similar to this other archetype. So alien dinosaurs, aliens, alien spiders, alien insects, alien mammals, etc., etc. Top right, this is essentially an alien pterosaur I was working on. It was for another project with alien dinosaurs, and the alien dinosaurs, they look sort of like regular dinosaurs, but just on another planet. And with this, you're seeing essentially a basic standard pterosaur. Wing membranes are the same. There's no bony portions in here. Short tail, armor running down the body. The legs are less stocky comparison to the Rodan design I did. There is a little bit of dewlap on the neck. The crest and the head as a whole, there's no teeth. The proportions are a little bit more animalistic in that regard. Same as where you can see the nostrils are closer to the eyes, while with the Rodan design, they're closer to the snout. So with these two, I would say look at the Rodan design and then look at the pterosaur design, and you'll see one that shifts closer to natural pterosaurs, while the other one is closer to the Kaiju sort of standard, as it were. Now, the middle guy, this was for another story I was working on with sort of classical renditions of prehistoric animals. And with the pterosaur, a lot of earlier depictions of pterosaurs, a lot of them all had very long tails that had the diamond shape ending to them, similar to Rhamphorhynchus, if anyone knows that specific pterosaur. So what I did with that, instead of giving him a diamond-shaped ending tail, I just gave him a wyvern barbed tail. So there is a spike, and then there's a lot of other smaller spikes there at the back. And when I say wyvern barbed tail, wyverns, when they're in media alongside dragons, usually they have stingers on the ends of their tails and spikes because they spit poison, while dragons use fire. And it's a way in which you can have the wyvern dragon and the sort of contemporary Western dragon in the same story without them sort of competing with each other for what is considered a true dragon of sorts. Looking at the head here, there is teeth similar to the Rodan design, and the skull itself, the crest is now just a horn instead of it being one solid bone like with the pterosaur design. There's a lot of armor running down the back. That's a thing that's consistent with almost all of these except for the last one here. The arms are a lot longer. I'm letting them sort of go along the ground, so if you're riding for kaiju, don't be afraid to have your pterosaur or dragon-like creature have its legs walk along the ground, because having its arms or wings spread out like Rodan or Ghost does, it can be unnatural, and if you're wanting to write a naturalistic story, you need to be cognizant of that. So understand what would be naturally comfortable for a creature to walk around with. If it needs to fold its wings, or if it needs to walk with them, walk with them. Just take that as a consideration. And I do something similar here with the last kaiju here. And I took the idea of the barbs on the tail and I extended it all the way up to the tail and all the way from the back. So the entire tail has these similarly small spiny bits. The legs similarly pentagrated from the previous design. There now has raptor claws, because if there's something you can do with dinosaur designs, you can sort of mix and match, and you can get a lot of interesting looks with it. And with here, the whole design is a lot more dragon-like in appearance, so I decided not to have a lot of bony membranes like with Xenodon that is below it, and I just wanted to have it be a single membrane. The head similarly has a lot more spikes, the eyes are larger, and this gives it a much more dragon-like appearance. However, in terms of a specific flying dinosaur, it's close to Dimorphodon. Dimorphodon have very large eyes in comparison to the rest of their skulls, and the rounded head was sort of the shape I wanted to go for with it. Looking at colors, two have brown being their primary color. I have one red, two blue, and one gray. The reason I did that was because Black and gray are two colors that are really easy to work with, and none of these guys are black specifically. However, if you've already done two dinosaur designs, one being a Dinozilla as seen in the previous episode, or a four-legged fire monster, and they already use these two colors, brown being another muted color works into this kind of triangle of sorts. Or similarly with Rodan, you have red. You can work with blue for another color, green. It's using these like three colors, and seeing as these three designs of the dinosaurs, the four-legged fire monsters, and these flying dinosaurs all are in a similar kind of field of being prehistoric kaiju, you usually are going to tend to see a lot of different colors that would make a trinity of sorts. In terms of powers, a lot of these guys can obviously fly. The Rodan I designed wanted to give him a beam similar to Fire Rodan. Xenodon can shoot beams of his own. The guy in the bottom right can also shoot beams, and the top guys just had no powers. And with these designs, or with the characters more or less, you can go with or without powers, because flying itself is something not a lot of creatures have in the first place. So you'll want to see, do you want to make this as natural as possible, or do you want this to be a more fighter-based character where you're going to want to give him beams and a host of other powers? So it's all dependent upon what you as the creator want to do. So in conclusion, I would say adhering to the archetype is making them upright pterosaurian-like creatures. Subverting the archetype is keeping more in line with the proportions of actual pterosaurs, or looking at ways you can extend certain limbs or make them essentially queering the what makes it a dragon and what makes it a pterosaur, and see what you can do to mix it up using other influences besides pterosaurs in your designs. And I would just say make sure that you give these guys wings, as it were. So there is actually a design for this episode that was made by Skull Ghidorah, and we're going to go over that and see what it does or doesn't do with the archetype of a flying dinosaur. So here is Skull Ghidorah's kaiju for this episode, and it is Brontocheirus. What we're looking at here is we are seeing a very standard upright Rodan-esque posture for the character. The neck is a lot longer, so that's a difference right there. The back crest has a little bit of membranous skin in the back, so that's a little different. The beak is there present, and you can see a little bit of a sharpened detail for it, which is good. The wings, there's no membrane in it. It's very undragon-like. It's very much like a pterosaur. However, we do see these large hook claws in here, and it's not like a hand, unlike, say, Gauss or Rodan. The tail is relatively long, about the same length as you'd say Showa Gauss's tail is. However, there's no extra detailing on it, and is much different from Hydra, which actually Hydra looks kind of similar to this. However, it shares a lot of both Hydra and Rodan, as it were. The legs are digigrade, and we're seeing two front claws and one back claw. That's actually something I personally like doing a lot. In terms of color, we have a yellow gold-like primary with some light yellow highlights up the neck, near the arms, on the legs, and then running down the tail with some dots as well, which is very nice. The chest has an armored portion similar to Rodan, and it's this dark brown. It's not like Rodan's, where Rodan's is almost a red mahogany color. This is very much a darker brown, and it goes all the way to the end of the tail. And with the yellow, we're seeing that there is a lot of dark and there's a lot of light, and the light on the wings really helps accentuate the design, and it doesn't draw your attention as much as the darker portions and what's going on with the head. And I'd have to say I like that tremendously. So great job as Skull Ghidorah 2016 for Brontocheirus. Hopefully he will continue to make these in the future for these episodes. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I will continue to do these in the future. As always, I am Zimzilla. See you guys next time.